Shouldn't this be up to her to fix? As far as I can tell, there have been many D-days. Please refrain from passing judgment on me as a result of this. For the last 2 years, my wife, 29F, and I have been married. We have one son who is 4 years old and is my responsibility. In the second year of our relationship, I learned about a fling she had 2 months into it when her AP phoned to alert me about it, which she only acknowledged to after he contacted me, and so started what I felt to be an acceptable reconciliation process. In January 2020, we will exchange vows with each other. She admitted to me last year that she was upset that I had communicated with her AP despite the fact that he had contacted me before. She thought it was weird since we had spoken about other things, such as sports, in the weeks after his disclosure. When she brought it up, I was surprised as to why she brought it up at all given that he hadn't contacted me in 4 or 5 years at the time. The guy found out about our relationship via Facebook, since she had kept him completely in the dark, and he thought I should be aware of it, which I'm grateful for, and as we spoke we discovered that we had a lot in common, which was a pleasant surprise. However, these conversations lasted just as long as it took me to have the confidence and evidence I needed to approach her. We were in no way friends. My nerves were on edge for a period of time after she came out and told me she was upset about it, so I started keeping an eye on her social media accounts. It was something I detested. Although I had decided that I did not want to be this guy, and I had convinced myself that I was over it. Something made me feel strange about it, and I was correct. I then found 3 individuals with whom she was speaking who she had met on Tinder and with whom she had met on Tinder. What followed was her completely losing her cool with me for snooping, and she ended up breaking up with me, moving out for 4 months, February 2021, June 2021, and hardly seeing our kid, as I assume he was a hindrance on whatever man she was seeing next. I had called an attorney and taken care of everything else. She told me that she did not want a divorce, but rather a trial separation, since she felt I was dominating her life. Because I thought I lacked self-esteem at the time, I saw this as the end of our relationship. I was slowly getting back on my feet, working hard for my child, and I had wiped her phone and all of that sort of information, preparing myself to be strong enough to call the lawyer again if it were necessary, I believe. A text message from an unknown number with just my name in it arrived in my inbox at the beginning of June. I don't pay attention to it and go on my way. I received a deluge of letters from people apologizing for her actions and decrying how disgustingly she had treated me. She said some very horrible things, as if the adultery wasn't bad enough, and she hadn't even bothered to see her child. I tried all I could not to break, but she called one day and I stupidly responded on loudspeaker, much to the delight of my child, who was ecstatic to hear her voice. After that, it took a few weeks for her to make her way back into my life. It has been a year since the last update, and it is now February. The fact that she has an open phone policy has told me what I assume to be the whole truth, albeit I have my doubts, and C's and I see on Wednesdays as part of her job description are all positive indicators. I feel a little stupid even admitting that we've been working on things when everything seems to be stuck in a holding pattern. I'll explain why in a moment. The things I anticipated from her were as follows: more effort and affection, more openness and honesty, daily gestures of love, and more effort with our child, to mention a few things. Here, I don't think I'm asking too much of anybody. Voice what she said in response. Paraphrased out in my opinion, you can't be at peace with what I've done, and I believe you hold it against me for having made you feel this way. I shouldn't have to put up with it, and you don't feel soothed by me, and I believe you're not truly content with being back together. Isn't it her obligation to do something about these problems? Isn't she supposed to be making an effort to reassure me at this point? I'm embarrassed to even ask this, but I want to make sure I'm not going nuts in this situation. She seemed to be blaming me for all that had happened. Does this seem like what's going on here, and what should I do about it? It's fruitless to try to reason with her since she becomes aggressive when you do. As others have pointed out, I should have left from the beginning, but I like the woman, and our child adores her despite the fact that she ignored him for many months at that time. If there were a friend or brother in my shoes and they were in my circumstance, I would tell them to get out of there as well. In practice, though, it is far more difficult. Advice on how to convince her that her response is wrong without getting into a physical confrontation would be much appreciated. Please avoid from making snap judgments about anybody. Thanks. Story 2. Me, 32 male, with my GF, 35 female of 3 years, she fights me and cheated, and I'm still here. When it comes to this story, I'm not sure where to begin. I'm 32 years old. Given my previous experience as the other man with my current partner, 35 female, I'm well aware that I'm not entirely innocent. Everything I know about the situation is that I'm wrong, and I'd want to start by acknowledging that I'm wrong. My girlfriend and I have been in a relationship for many years. She comes to me with a lot of baggage from her past relationship, which she regularly takes out on me by creating fights about how I don't want to be there or with her in the first place. There's nothing I can do to prevent this. I can watch her mood go from okay to unwell, and I have no influence over it. Over the years, I've saved some of the reasons for the disagreements as notes on my phone. But the important thing to remember is that she has issues with her brain that I am unable to resolve on my own. I moved in with her, lavished her with attention, shared my phone's location with her 24 hours a day, allowed her to use my car, and we made large purchases together, among other things, to help her through this difficult time. With a few exceptions, I've only given her reason to believe that I'm in it for the long haul. I'm still legally married to my wife. I became aware of red signals that she was attempting to influence me into doing what she wanted because I don't see a future with her if I don't do it. Consequently, in order to prevent myself from remarrying, I simply chose to stay separate. This annoys my girlfriend, but it's a line I drew on the board. I previously sought to stop my relationship with her as a result of our arguments. I'm not the kind to get into arguments. I don't see why I should engage in a debate with her. I've pleaded with her to stop, to get counseling for whatever it is that is causing her to act like a nutcase. I don't tell her she's behaving like a nutcase, and so on and so forth. I really begged for change but received none, so I attempted 2 different breakups. She wept and promised to change, and I couldn't take the notion of making someone else sad, so I offered her a second and a third chance to redeem herself. 22nd of November, 2021, while I was at work, I saw her emailing another guy about sending him nudes and so on. I moved out, we were broken up, but she kept calling until I spoke to her, and despite being wounded more than I could have imagined, I allowed her back in. Important, we also collaborate on a battleship that is deployed at sea for months at a time. I can't simply walk away from her life as I would have liked to when this all occurred, and that played a role in allowing her back in. I had to visit her every day. But here's the thing. I actually enjoy a lot of things about her. I appreciate working with her since we live together, have similar fitness objectives, share well, and so forth. I also have to work with her on a daily basis. But I can't do it any longer, both for my own sake and for hers. Since I moved out, I sleep at my house during the week and at her house on weekends. Sometimes she is understanding of the issue, and other times she starts conflicts that I can't help but get involved in, which I despise. Obviously, it's not good for either of us, but she doesn't see it that way, and the only time I want to talk about it is when things are terrible. When it's nice, it's fun, despite my neurotic anxiety that she'll start writing / other guys in front of me again. So I'm at a loss about what to do. I'm not sure how to bring this up with her. I'm at a loss for words as to how to persuade her of the dangers this poses to both of us. We'll ultimately be on different ships, and the closer we get to that point, the more furious she'll be with me for not seeing a future with her, which, unfortunately, has prompted me to not see a future with her.